If you are hearing this broadcast, seek shelter
John, go!
immediately. Seek shelter immediately. Seek shelter immediately. Seek shelter immediately.
Oh boy, we literally, guys, just this week did a quick list video on the best disaster movies of all time, and now we've got something that may just have been able to sneak onto that list if only it had been released here in the UK a week earlier. Jared Butler stars as a man who has been separated from his wife but is trying to stay on good terms with her for the kids' sake, but when the comet hits the fan, you got the opportunity to get back with her because it's Marina Baccarin, so yeah, I gotta get back with her. He goes big macho man and is willing to go endgame style and do whatever it takes to get them into the big boy bunkers in Greenland. Oh, that's why they call it that. So basically we're putting Deep Impact in 2012 into a big old pop, mixing them up to take the solid family and character work and pretty good writing of Deep Impact and the actual excitement and visuals from 2012, because Deep Impact had none of that. And I've got to say that this feels, compared to any of those other big giant disaster films, you know, it feels fairly realistic in a lot of ways. Not to say it treads too far in that direction, none of them really do, but this is a good job of it. And it also manages to provide that look into the panic and fear of being in that moment that you figure out the world is ending, you know, seeing and showing the various reactions that people can have to something like that. The whole thing worried me in some ways early on by seeming too purely interested in the characters and the reactions as opposed to actual big thrills, exciting moments, you know. I knew from Deep Impact that you need to mix these things to not feel in making a disaster movie, you know. Deep Impact, it might do well at being some things, it doesn't do that well being a disaster movie, you know what I'm saying? Because disaster movies, they've got to be thrillers, in my mind, you know, and it's just not making a disaster movie if you don't have some solid degree of that. Anyway, Jared Butler gets notified that he's being accepted with his family into the bunkers set up by the government for a situation such as that nice comet in the sky, not missing theirs by quite so much as the news reassuring everyone. And upon hearing this, Butler has to brutally get his neighbours out of the way so they can get out of there, make it to the airport, and, you know, I'm sure from there everything goes perfectly fine for them, you know, or not so much, and maybe they're left in a bit of a race against time to make it to Canada to get aboard the last planes leaving for Greenland. That probably won't happen, though. Anyway, here is my 1 minute review for Greenland. This very much reminds me of disaster movies from the 90s, you know, like Dante's Peak. It's got such a good, solid mixture of making you enjoy and like these characters as a family, and at the same time doing pretty good in terms of the big moments, those big action moments and stuff. The first time that Jared Butler gets hit by a big shockwave that knocked out Florida, you're just like, oh! And while this does focus a lot on character work and the family and stuff like that, and it doesn't go all out like 2012 or something in terms of these big sequences where things are falling apart and places going crazy, it doesn't need to, you know, because that sometimes they go too far into that and forget to actually make us, you know, care that these are people and, you know, we want them to survive. Just the style, the way it all blended together, it worked really well for me. It made me love this film. Maybe it was just because I've not been to a cinema in a couple of months and it's wearing on me, and this felt like a sit down and watch this big new film cinema experience, but it worked really well for me and I actually actively loved this film. I'm giving Everything Has Fallen 83 out of 100. I don't think you'd have to change many details to make this into another entry in that franchise, but I do think this is one of the best disaster, like large-scale disaster films we've had in years. I thought this was above the level of like 2012. I thought it was above the level of even like San Andreas for me. I thought it worked really, really well, and I'd love to see this again to see if I'm just a bit blockbuster deprived right now, or if this really is as good as I thought it was there. And that is all for this one. Ho, so much going on, guys. Have we reached 1,000 yet by the time I upload this? I don't know, we've been sitting on like 995, 996 most of the week. Please subscribe.